Hello, listener. My name is Oleg, and I'm writing this story just to warn you about one thing: be careful with people. You never know who might actually be hiding behind the mask of a friend, work colleague, or neighbor. I don't want to undermine your trust in others, just be careful, otherwise it will be too late. Well, yes, and I also want to ask you for advice on what I should do now. But about everything in order. It all started with the fact that my grandmother was hospitalized. Because of this, I had to take an unscheduled vacation at work to follow her animals in the village. In general, I arrived at the place, laid out my things, fed the geese and chickens, and then went to bed. I was too tired and I didn't want to chat with the neighbors at all. I'll say hello in the morning, there's no hurry, I thought. Even though the neighbor's house was right next to my grandmother's house, I still wasn't going to arrange fraternal relations with the locals in any case. I would soon move back to the city. In the morning I was already full of energy. I made myself a delicious omelette from homemade eggs, took a cup of fragrant coffee with me and went out on the porch. By the way, it overlooked the neighbor's house. It was summer, the weather was fine. I was just basking in the sun, leaning on the railing and inhaling clean, not polluted by urban dirt air. I was so high that I even closed my eyes for a minute. When I opened my eyes, I was a little surprised. A neighbor was standing in front of Grandma's house. Well, he would have stood there, but he kept staring at me and, even more strangely, he was barefoot. Although there was quite a simple excuse for this: it's summer outside, it's warm, why not take a walk barefoot? In short, he stood like that for about 5 minutes, after which he went into the house. I looked after him with disbelief, finished my coffee and went into the house. After finishing my chores, I dropped by my grandmother's neighbor and asked her about this guy. That's what she said to me. This is Antonich. Strange guy, lives here for a long time, alone. He's always so silent. You better stay away from him, man. We are afraid of him. A year ago, 2 girls disappeared, and just then I heard screams from Antonich's house at night. The police were called, the forest was bypassed, and Antonich's house was searched. They didn't find anything. Well, that's the end of it. They said that these girls were killed by animals in the forest, but I know what really happened to them. Take care of yourself and stay at home more often. I thanked her for the warning and went home. I spent the rest of the day doing household chores. From time to time I looked at the neighbor's yard. Antonich was poking around in the garden and chicken coop, generally engaged in ordinary village affairs. He didn't look at me anymore, and I was glad of that. In the evening, when it got dark, I once again went to drink coffee on the porch. Antonich, apparently, was in the house. There was a light on in the room on the 2nd floor. After finishing my life-giving drink, I decided to watch TV in the living room. Her windows looked out on the side where Antonich's house was located. From time to time I glanced at the neighbor's abode, and somewhere at 1:30 in the night the light in the room upstairs went out. Antonich's house was plunged into darkness. After half an hour, fatigue overcame me. I turned off the TV and went to bed. The night passed quietly. I woke up in a great mood and decided to go to the village store for food. I went out into the yard and sat down. Antonich stood barefoot against the wall again and stared at me in silence. Whether he had been standing like this since early morning or somehow caught the moment when I would go outside, I didn't care. It was just annoying and infuriating for me. Yes, he was creepy, but I had to figure out what was going on and why the hell he was staring at me in the morning. Taking the will in my fist and trying with all my might not to betray fear, I approached my neighbor with a confident gait. I was about to open my mouth, but the guy beat me to it. He waved to me in a friendly way and said, "Hello, neighbor. Let's go to my place for tea." I'm doubly freaked out. He doesn't know me and he hasn't introduced himself, and he's already inviting me to tea. My inner voice was insistently trying to hammer into me that something was wrong here. As a result, I smiled idiotically and mumbled, "Thank you, I've already had tea. Goodbye," after which he quickly walked away from this psycho. Leaving the gate, I looked back and saw a neighbor smiling and waving goodbye to me. Without slowing down, I finally went to the store. I bought food, animal feed, and went back. I was holding packages in both hands. I was already halfway to the house when suddenly I literally froze in place from fear. Antonich was walking towards me on the road. His bare feet shuffled in the sand. I couldn't have missed him because the damn road was too narrow and, as luck would have it, there wasn't a soul nearby. I quickened my pace and looked down at the ground. Here I am already approaching a neighbor and I hear, "Hello, how are you? Have you been to the store too?" Can you tell me if there is still food for chickens there? Antonich said this in such a friendly voice that I even relaxed a little. I raised my head and looked at my neighbor. He smiled sweetly and added, "Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Viktor Antonovich." With these words, he extended his hand to shake mine. I literally felt in my gut the falsity and pretense of what was happening. No, he didn't go to the store. His hands are empty. What was he carrying the money in? In your pockets? So he doesn't have them neither on his t-shirt nor on his shorts. And his bare feet. I understand it's summer and everything, but he's walking down the street, even if he's wearing sandals or something. This infection is tracking me down and wants to catch me. I looked at his outstretched hand, and I had a feeling that if I shook it now, he would grab me and kill me. I lifted the bags and said to him, "Very nice, Oleg. Yes, there's plenty of food for chickens, be they not fine." How they got me? Sorry, my hands are busy. I'll run home. With these words, I walked home at a brisk pace. After walking a little forward, I turned around. The damned neighbor was still looking at me with a smile, but his eyes were frowning and his hands were shaking, like a hunter who missed his prey. When I got home, I flew into the chicken coop and hastily poured the grain into the feeder, causing it to scatter on the ground. The birds, maddened by such a sight, looked at me as if I was some kind of half-wit. I left the chicken coop, entered the house and locked the door. Then I cooked dinner, and the fear gradually let me go. In the evening, while watching TV, a bad but damn curious thought came to my head to sneak up to a neighbor's house and peek through the window of the first floor. Ask me why I need it. You won't get an answer, because I don't know why myself. Simply so. Yes, idiotic thoughts sometimes drive to the grave. I still regret that I got into his house. If I didn't do it then, perhaps the subsequent events didn't happen at all. In general, I waited until the light in the neighbor's house went out and went on my spy mission. I quietly climbed over the fence like a master ninja and silently clung to the window. The room was pitch dark, the room was illuminated only by the dim light of the moon, but I was still surprised to see what was happening. This room turned out to be a living room. A dining table was set against the far wall, at which Antonich was sitting slightly obliquely. He didn't see me, but I saw him perfectly. There was a good piece of meat on his plate, while the neighbor was chewing this chop and sipping red wine from a glass. And then I saw something that I will never forget. I clearly saw a lifeless female silhouette on the sofa. Not wanting to take any more chances, I recoiled from the window, but I stumbled and fell with a crash on the rustling gravel. I immediately got up, rushed home and called the police. It was impossible to delay. I knew that this Antonich was just a psychopath. And if it turns out that this girl was just sleeping, then let her be fined for a false call. Spit. I'll feel safer. The police arrived pretty quickly. They broke into Antonich's house, and my worst fears were confirmed. There were 3 mummified female bodies in the room, which were tied to the wall by the necks. 1 on the sofa and 2 by the stairs. Later, the policeman told me that during the interrogation Antonich said this: "My thoughts were kind and pure. I just wanted to let them feel real happiness, and I'm sure they were happier than ever. They told me that they were tired of household chores, that they were tired of everything, and I freed them from all these torments. I helped them." Antonich was taken to some kind of pre-trial detention center, and his house was sealed. The grandmother's condition began to improve, and the doctor said that in about a month, she would fully recover and return home. I was like elated, 2 joyful news at once. Grandma will be back soon, and this psychopath is locked up. Now I was ready to live in the village for at least 100 years. About a week has passed since Antonich's arrest. Everything was peaceful. And then one day a rumor swept through the village that Antonich had escaped from the pre-trial detention center. I tensed up, but I didn't want to believe the rumors and worry for nothing, so I just continued to live as before. The next day I saw my grandmother's excited neighbor running around the yard. I asked her what happened, and she told me that her roof in the attic leaked. She has no children, there is no one to help, and the services of builders cost a lot. Arriving in a great mood, I generously offered to fix the roof myself. She, of course, was delighted and gladly responded to my offer. An unpleasant surprise was waiting for me. The problem with the roof turned out to be serious. I was busy with it all day. As a result, I finished the repair at about 11 p.m. A neighbor offered to have dinner with her and even spend the night. Although it was 2 steps to my house, I was so tired that I could not walk there, and therefore I ate a homemade roast with pleasure and lay down on a kindly made bed in the attic. After waking up and having breakfast, I thanked my neighbor for her help and went home. When I got to the door, I was a little surprised. The keyhole was badly scratched, as if someone had tried to open the lock. At first patiently and then as if in a rage. I looked down and saw that someone had put a letter in the crack between the floor and the door. I picked it up. It was a homemade envelope made of ordinary white paper, which was fastened with a sticker in the form of a pink pigeon. I opened the letter and I will never forget what I read in it. Hello, Oleg. I am so sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't kill you. But I managed to escape and came to your house at night. You came to me that night too. I'm so upset that you're not here. You must have already left for the city, and that makes me very sad. My conscience torments me for not helping you. You said you were sick of housework. I wanted so much to free you from them, to make you relax and be happy. And so, I came, and you weren't there. But never mind, I'm free now. There's nothing holding me back anymore. I can't stay in the village, because they're looking for me. I'll hide somewhere for now, but don't worry, I'll be back soon. Oleg, I promise that I will find you. I will do my best to make you feel real happiness and joy. I'll help you. Please wait for me. I asked to spend the night with a neighbor until the day my grandmother returns. She agreed. When Grandma did come back, I got out of that village far away. 4 months have passed since that incident, but not everything is so simple. In general, I need your advice what to do. Today is Saturday. I went down to check the mailbox and found a crookedly scrawled message on a crumpled note at the bottom. Oleg, I found you. I'll help you soon.